Here we are, Mother said. We'll go in the back way through the sacristy because you're not religious yet, she smiled. Not until after the hooding, so you should go through as little of the enclosure now as possible. A big heavy door swung back, the sacristy heavy with the pungent smell of incense and candles, a brief glimpse of a cloister stretching away ahead of us with rust and yellow tiles gleaming dimly in the dusky light that filtered through the stained glass windows. A quick look at a huge pieta at the corner of the cloister, Jesus, life-sized, stretched out broken and dead in his mother's arms, Mary staring ahead in agony, blank and serene. Then, through another massive door with heavy iron hinges and a large latch that clinked hollowly in the silence, this, Mother said, is the door to the postulant ship. The door swung open noiselessly. Wooden, uncarpeted stairs, a smell of cleanliness and polish, our high heels clattered thunderously. Already they seemed out of place. And at last the dormitory, a low, modern room containing 12 beds draped in white. Light poured in and house martins swooped and chattered in the eaves. The floor shone. It seemed a place of purity and innocence. We stood clustered clumsily in the doorway. This is your cell, Karen, Mother Albert said. You're lucky. You've got a nice corner cell near the radiator, but don't get too attached to it, she smiled. I change you all around every few months so that you don't come to regard this as your cell. In the religious life, we don't own anything. My cell, I thought with a strange thrill. It sounded so monastic. I thought again of the lives of the saints, of nuns and monks wrestling with God and the devil in the bare stone cell. This wasn't stone, of course, but it showed that I had finally arrived where I wanted to be. Sister Rebecca came to show me what to do, my first sight of a novice. She stood looking down at me, her eyes alight with excitement, but she was controlled, calm. She was tall and dressed in the full religious habit, except that she had a long white veil. Her face was utterly at peace, completely beautiful. It was the face, I thought, of a Botticelli Madonna, serene and remote. That, I thought, is exactly how I want to be. Hello, sister, she said. Sister, I registered it confusedly and then felt a thrill of satisfaction at last. Here are your clothes, Sister Rebecca was saying, her voice scarcely more than a whisper. And calm, so calm. I'll get you some hot water because I expect you'd like to wash. She took an enamel jug from under the bed. And now you draw the curtains round your cell. Here. I pulled the stiff calico curtains, bleached and coarse, round the bed. They were pleated rigidly and were suspended from a railing. Drawn, they shut my cell off from the rest of the dormitory. I looked around it. It was tiny, just large enough to stand up and turn round carefully. On the floor was a piece of hairy matting, and beside the bed there was a little washstand, painted white, with a cold marble top. It supported a large porcelain basin and a china jug containing cold water. On the wooden chair rested my suitcase, and I took out my wash bag and the pair of shoes I had brought with me. Flat black lace-up shoes with rubber soles. Sister Rebecca appeared again with a jug of hot water, which she poured into the basin. Have you got soap, sister? She asked. She seemed so kind, so gentle, and above all so assured. I nodded, desperately anxious to get on with it. Right, then I'll leave you to get dressed and be back again soon. Thank you, sister, I grinned back at her, and her face suddenly lit up with an answering smile. I tore off my clothes and then, remembering where I was, folded them neatly on the chair. It seemed as though I were shedding the world, shedding the whole of my past life with its untidy confusions, its degrading fears, its pettiness. I scrubbed the makeup off my face harshly, splashed vigorously in the hot, soapy water. I wanted to go forward into my new life absolutely clean, not just the grime of British rail, but the grime of the world scrubbed away and flushed down the sink. Then I turned to the clothes. From all sides of the dormitory, stifled, nervous giggles were erupting excitedly. I pulled on the black woolen stockings and turned to the underclothes, long Airtex bloomers that reached my knees, an Airtex tunic that had long sleeves, a trifle too long. They flopped over my fingers and I folded them back bulkily over my wrists, and that fell over the bloomers, ending just above my knees, and then an ankle-length serge petticoat. All the clothes, I noticed, were marked with a number, 276. That must be my number. Somewhere in that throng of unknown nuns, I had a definite place. I was 276th in line. And then came a black cotton blouse, a long pleated black serge skirt that came just below my ankles, and on top of all this, a prim cape, open in the front, braided around the edges, which flapped jauntily about my elbows. It had a flat linen Peter Pan collar. I looked down at myself nervously, feeling as though I were in a fancy costume or dressing up for a play, but I realized with a pang of apprehension I knew neither the role nor the lines. Goodness, you're quick, Sister Rebecca entered my cell, gliding in noiselessly. I turned to face her self-consciously. She studied me and, with a grave and decisive nod, looked satisfied. Good, now let's find you a cap. She seized my black hairbrush and pulled my hair severely off my face, fastening it back with hair grips. Then she produced a white linen cap and pulled it on, surveyed me, and shook her head. Too tight, she pronounced. Eventually she found one that appeared to fit, pulled up the drawstring at the back and tied it in a firm knot under my chin. Yes, she said. The cap fit tightly around my face, showing just a little hair in front. Then she vanished, leaving me feeling like a skinned grape, and reappeared with a white semicircular piece of linen that she pinned around the cap so that the little veil hung round my shoulders. See, she said, I'm putting in one pin at the top and one on each side. Is that comfortable? Her voice sounded muffled. Is this what it always feels like in a habit? I wondered. All sounds coming from a long way off, closing you in a world of personal silence with God forever. I turned my head uncertainly, and the starched linen rustled and crackled alarmingly through my head like the roaring of an angry sea. Good, Sister said. Then she untied the cap and veil, and the world rushed back again, noisy, clear, and sharply focused. Now, during the hooding, Sister explained quietly and reassuringly, Reverend Mother Provincial will place the hood on your head like this, see? She demonstrated. What you have to do is take the strings that are hanging down in the front like that. Yes, that's right. Tie them under your chin at the side. No, here, yes. That's it. Tie a good strong bow. Yes, good. Then what you've got is an untidy mess of strings hanging down. So you then have to twiddle them round the strings like this until you've got a sort of twisted rope, and then you tuck it into your cap at the side out of sight. Now, you try all over again. I tried fumblingly. That's right, she grinned at me suddenly. All the rest of your life you'll have to be careful about that, of not letting your strings show. Look. She pulled at her own cap, and they hung there, absurdly incongruous from the severe wimple in her beautiful face. She giggled. We call it having a beard, she said, tucking them back. I pinned mine safely in position. You might like to do the same. Then she took off the cap with its veil, pinned on it a label that read Karen, and glided off to give it to Mother Albert. I looked round the dormitory. On all sides, girls were appearing from their cells with scrubbed, childish faces. Awkward but already transformed, the superficial differences of hairstyle and clothes, carefully chosen to express personality, were all thrown away. We emerged now, all identical, no longer of the world. We eyed one another surreptitiously, caught one another's eyes, and grinned, smirking at our mirror images. Is everybody ready? Mother Albert called. Good, we're just in time. You can go, sisters, she said, waving dismissively in the direction of the novices, who vanished silently, eyes cast down, while white veils floating. Mother Albert looked at us all critically, walking down the line we had formed, adjusting a collar, pulling a cape, tugging at a skirt. This, she said, is your formal introduction to the order. After the hooding, you will be religious sisters. It's a short and very simple ceremony. Reverend Mother Provincial will read some prayers. Try and listen to them, take in what you can. They're beautiful prayers asking God for what you will need to be good nuns. You probably don't feel much like praying, she smiled ruefully, but probably feel very confused and numb. But don't worry about that. It's quite normal. You've all had a very tiring and unusual day. She then called out a list of our names, which placed us in order of age. Wherever you go for the next 3 years, she explained, you will walk in line in this order, so try and remember it. I was at the back with Irene in front of me and Marie and Margaret behind. It was a daunting prospect, always walking in rank, your place fixed in it. Like soldiers, I thought, and then I remembered that St. Ignatius, whose rule we largely followed in this order, had been a soldier. Soldiers of Christ. How many of you have got headscarves? Mother was asking. I went and produced mine, and so did one or two others. Yes, you'll need to cover your heads in church as usual. Anyone who hasn't got a scarf can have a mantilla. I looked at my scarf. It was red and white, and antique cars and bright colors careered cheerfully all over it. I had never thought anything of it at home, but now suddenly it seemed quite out of place. I looked down at my strange, sober clothes and cringed at making my religious debut with this emblem of frivolity on my head. Mother, I said, I can't wear this. She looked at it and her face lit up. No, she said as she laughed at the absurdity of it. No, you can't possibly wear anything like that ever again. Later, I learned of my parents' thoughts and feelings that night. They spent the afternoon in the theater, very conscious that I was not with them. It had been odd watching Maria Trapp as a postulant and thinking that I was one too by that time. It was comforting to them that Maria left her order. It nurtured the hope they both shared, even though it was never expressed directly that I too would prove unsuitable for the life. Climb every mountain till you find your dream. They could not quite see a member of my order dismissing me with an aria. More likely it would be a cool, ironic, but well-bred admonition. But how wonderful it would be if I were advised to leave. Till you find your dream. What did I really want that was leading me so far from them spiritually? Afterward, driving home again down the highway, Lindsay dropped off to sleep, exhausted by the emotion of the day. It was good that they were so tired. They'd planned a full day on purpose so that when they got home, they'd only want to sleep, not think. But inevitably, they wondered whether they had done the right thing in letting me go. What could we have done, my mother kept on saying. How could we have stopped her? If we had stopped her, she'd only have spent the next few years pining for the convent. It was the one point in all the welter of religious confusion that she kept coming back to. Again and again on that sad journey home, my parents tried to make sense of what had happened. Looking at my sister in the back seat, my mother tried to puzzle out how she had managed to produce two such different children. Already, Lindsay's 14-year-old body was seductive as she lay asleep, her long, shapely legs sprawled across the seat, her mane of hair tumbling over her shoulders. Lindsay couldn't be more different, my mother said. Extrovert from the word go and loads of friends. Anytime now we'll be fending off the boyfriends, I expect. My father agreed. Lindsay, he felt, was more like his side of the family. He could understand her better than me somehow. She had straightforward emotions and a streak of Irish sentimentality that he shared, whereas I was an unknown quantity with thoughts that I'd never share with anyone. Why are they so different, he asked. They were brought up exactly the same. Genes, said my mother dryly. Karen's got Hastings genes. She's exactly like my mother. She looks like her. She's small like her when all the rest of us are such giants. And she's got her sense of humor, too. And she always wanted to be a nun, or so she says now, my father said. Who knows? It may be there that it all started to go wrong for her. This will of God business again. The lights were beginning to prick the darkness at the side of the motorway. Outside the car, the world looked concrete and very bleak to my parents. How had they managed to produce a child who would want to deny all they loved and valued most? They had tried everything in that last year to make me change my mind. I had been subjected to an onslaught of parties and official Catholic functions that had filled me with horror and excruciating boredom. If this was the world and all its works and pomps, they could keep it. The boys from Stonyhurst and Downside ferried me around the dance floor, unable to meet my eyes while we tried to engage in social conversation. My shoes hurt. My dress felt like armor plating, and I longed for the friendly solitude of my own bedroom. They're such nice boys, my mother protested. Perhaps that was exactly what was wrong with them. Nothing was going to make me change my mind about the convent. I've never seen her so stubborn, my mother said now, as the car took them farther and farther away from me. It was strange. It seemed as though God really was supporting her in some way. That, I sensed, was what baffled my parents most. I had always been a meek child, dreading conflict of any kind, and had always preferred to give in rather than risk a row. Nothing had really seemed worth such an expense of energy and dignity. But in this matter I had known I was right, and with a strength I hadn't known I possessed, I calmly stuck to my point, blandly refusing to argue. After all, I was doing God's will, and kindly I had to make my parents see it. I had at least made them uneasy enough to prefer not to risk encountering God's disapproval. We never spoke of this. My parents did not talk easily about the more personal and emotional aspects of religion. Once, however, I'd heard my mother say, if you believe in God, then as a Catholic, you've got to believe that he calls some people to become nuns. So logically, why shouldn't it be your own daughter? They fell silent as they neared Birmingham. When God was a factor, you couldn't win, and you shouldn't want to either. Yet they still felt trapped and uneasy.